So this is the show that we start. We've been talking about for the last several months about doing, forecast shows and so forth and so on. So this is it. This is where we're going to start forecasting what these individual teams are going to be. And we are going to start with Texas. We're going to start diving into these individual games. But before we do, I'm going to kind of turn it over to the Chicken. He's going to kind of give us a rundown on who's returning, who we lost, who they picked up, so forth and so on to Texas, just to kind of really paint us a big picture of what their season might look like before we go into those individual games.
Yeah, so we talked about this on the last show, just the number of players that Texas lost, right? Either through transfer, they're in the portal, they graduated, they went to the draft. We're going to kind of go through from an upper level as to what's coming in. What is this year's team going to look like? We'll start off in the quarterback room because it is QB1. Everybody wants to start there. Obviously, you lost a big name in Quinn Ewers. He's gone with the draft, a 5-star. But coming in right behind him, a 5-star in Arch Manning. I think Arch had a good year for what you got to see from him. And we talked about this the last episode too. What you really got to see from Arch when he had the complete game at quarterback, it was his show to run versus when they kind of plugged him in here and there and you could bet your house that he was going to run it. Had good numbers. I think Arch presents a great opportunity at quarterback for Texas coming into this year. I think he's gonna pick up where they left off. I think Texas is going to challenge again this season. But let's take another quick look at that room. Trey Owens, a 4-star. Cole Lord, a 3-star behind him. But coming in, KJ Lacey, a 4-star commit coming into the Texas Longhorns. So they're going to be deep at quarterback for a minute. Looking at the running back room, Quintravion Wisner still there. CJ Baxter, both of these guys are huge players. Wisner was a 3-star, right? But he ran for over 1,000 yards last year.
You remember what happened to their running back room before the season even started, they lost running back 1 and 2.
1 and 2 got decimated. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And still questions about CJ Baxter and where he's gonna come and play out. Jaden Blue is gone in the draft. Jarek Gibson is a 4-star. So that running back room is looking good. Then you've got three 4-star running back commits coming into this next season. So again, Sark is stacking this team. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and keep in mind, guys, we talk about this all the time. The only difference really between a 5 and a 4 is they're saying a 5-star is an early projecting of going into the first round of the draft. That's it.
And it's completely subjective. It's completely theoretical because the NFL can't take somebody straight out of high school, right? So that's the whole, here's this 18-year-old kid, maybe even a 17-year-old kid, depending on if he graduates early, that's a 5-star, meaning, he could be drafted in the first round. Actually, no, he can't because the NFL don't work that way, right? NBA, Major League Baseball, they'll pick you up right out of high school. The NFL will not. And understandably so, right? You've got, at that point, you'd have a high school senior running into a freight train head first. Not smart.
No.
But one thing that I want you to pay attention to is we just looked at the quarterbacks, we just looked at the running backs, and we have not talked about one single incoming transfer. So Sark is doing this the old-fashioned way, building this program at the roots. As our friend Matthew McConaughey would say, all right. Looking at the wide receiver room, this room got hit a little bit harder. You lost both Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond to the NFL draft. Jonte Cook transfers out. You've got Freddie DeBose that's currently in the portal, and I'm looking down the list here. Pretty much everybody in that room is a 4 or a 5-star. Ryan Wingo is a 5-star inside that wide receivers room. This is going to be a big deal for Texas. Let's talk about what's coming in. Kalik Lockett, 5-star freshman. Jamie French, 4-star freshman. Dalen McCutcheon, 4-star freshman. Emmett Mosley the 5th, talk about something to live up to, is an incoming 4-star transfer. We just hit our first incoming transfer. So that wide receiver room, gonna be stacked. Offensively, so far, what you're seeing is complete, in my opinion, complete balance. Are they going to run it? Yep. Are they going to throw it? Yep. Who are they going to throw it with? Arch Manning.
A Manning.
You're going to have to be prepared for everything coming out of that room. Tight ends is a little bit different. The top 3 tight ends that these guys had are gone. Gunnar Helm to the draft. Juan Davis graduated, and Amari Niblack transferred out to the hated Aggies. But coming into that tight end room, you've got a 3-star transfer out of Cal and Jack Indries. Nick Townsend, incoming 4-star freshman, and Amari Winston, an incoming 3-star freshman. So again, he's still building that up. Here's where my big question lies, and that is with the offensive line. 4 of their 5 starters aren't just gone. They're gone to Sundays, my friend, maybe with the occasional Monday night. NFL draft, your left tackle, your left guard, your center, and your right tackle are all playing with the big boys now. So you're only returning right guard DJ Campbell. That gives you 4 slots that you got to figure out how you're going to fill. No worries, Longhorns, because in that second tier below them, 4-star Trevor Gooseby, 4-star Nito Imazula, 3-star Connor Robertson, 4-star Cole Hudson, 5-star Brandon Baker. I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be okay in protecting that quarterback. Incoming, you've got a 4-star and a 3-star freshman addition coming into your team this year. So that depth will continue for Texas. Looking at the defense, these guys were good, and I think they're going to get better. The defensive line, 3 of their top 4 defensive linemen playing on Sundays. So another big hit. Coming in this next season, 4-star transfer out of Purdue, Cole Brevard. 5-star commit, Justice Terry. I believe that's a sensitive topic for some people on this show. 4-star commit, Lance Jackson. 3-star transfer out of Stanford, Murad Watson. 5-star transfer out of North Carolina. This guy left Belichick, Travis Shaw. He's got 1 year left of eligibility, and he wasn't going to burn it on Bill. And then a 3-star transfer out of Maryland in Levon Johnson. So again, a lot of depth coming into that D-line room for the Longhorns. At linebacker, similar situation. You've got a couple of good recruits coming in here. 3-star Brad Spence, 4-star Elijah Barnes, and 3-star Jonathan Cunningham. The linebacker room didn't get hit really as far as I can see from a lot of depth at talent. 5-star Anthony Hill Jr. is still there. 4-star Leona Laufa, I don't know, is still there. It's going to be a good linebacker class for Texas. DBs, another big pickup as he picks up 5-star Jonah Williams, a commit. Cade Phillips is a 4-star. Grayson Littleton is a 4-star. Zulus Hicks is a 4-star. Caleb Chester is a 3-star. But they're going to be okay because Malik Muhammad is still there. Michael Taffy is still there. They're going to be all right. They are going to be all right in Texas. We could talk specialists, but I don't want to. So overall, everybody's got a kicker, everybody's got a punter, right? You just hope that they connect. Overall, I think Texas is looking more than solid. Chris, they still have a cupcake schedule in the conference going into this year, but it won't take away from the outcomes, just like it can't take away from the outcome they had this past season. Great year ahead for Texas, in my estimation, based on the talent that's in the barn.
Yeah, and I was going to say that about Chris. I was going to say, well, I mean, yes, they're talented. Yes, they've got it. But remember, they do have a still a kind of a weaker conference schedule, because I'm going to emphasize they have a weaker conference schedule because, and we'll get into the games in just a few minutes. Let's start digging into their games. All right. And we're not really going to talk about any of the non-conference games other than week 1. Ooh. All right. So the Chicken kind of laid out what they've got, right? And because we are an SEC show, they are not playing an SEC team, but they are playing the reigning national champions, Ohio State, week 1. I mean, I don't know if you can find a bigger game in week 1 than this. I mean, this is a big one that we haven't seen in a long time. Yet last year, Georgia played Clemson week 1. Not even compared to this. This game is going to be incredible. And kind of not knowing what Ohio State has other than, I mean, I know they've got a new quarterback under him,
Julian Sayin.
Yeah, Julian Sayin is a transfer from Alabama. Will Howard is gone. They lost a couple of their receivers, Abuka, but they're returning, I mean, one of the best wide receivers, Jeremiah Smith, in the country. Caleb Downs is still on the team. So they've got weapons, and they're Ohio State. So I guarantee you, and we're not going to, but if we went into the Ohio State's roster, kind of like what the Chicken just did with Texas, I think what you're going to find is probably something very similar. They're going to be loaded at every position. So it is going to be a game. But let me ask you this, guys. If Texas loses to Ohio State, this is definitely the biggest game Arch has seen, right? This is going to test Arch. If they lose to Ohio State, how does that set up the rest of the season, or does it just not matter?
I think, first of all, I hate matchups like this in week 1. And here's why. Not that it was equivalent, but if you looked at the Florida State Georgia Tech matchup in Ireland, right? They tried to hype that up. It's in Ireland. What does Florida State have to do with Ireland? Nothing. But if you looked at that, you looked at a Florida State that had just come in off of a wonderful season the year prior. They had DJ Ukulele at quarterback, who was going to be the next best thing coming out of Tallahassee after he had kind of not done all that great anywhere else, but why not? And Florida State was going to be off and running, and Georgia Tech said, nah, hold my calculator and slide rule. I got this. And they dismantled Florida State's season before it got a chance to start. That's why I don't like games like this, because I look at this game between Texas and Ohio State, two teams that you want to be good all year, especially Texas from an SEC standpoint. You want these teams not only in the conversation before kick, but you want these two teams in the conversation at the end of November. And there's just too much opportunity for something squirrely to happen. So that's just my personal opinion. Back it up, Chris. Where does Texas come out in this game? I don't think that Arch Manning has the ability to come into any game unprepared. Look at who his grandfather is, at who his uncles are. He was born to be a professional. And so he's going to take that approach, not only getting ready for this season as QB1, but also in getting ready for week 1 against Ohio State. He's not going to get rattled. He's not going to come out looking like he's unprepared. Or what was it, Zach Wilson with the Jets a few years ago that said he was seeing ghosts out there. That ain't going to happen to Arch. I think that this is probably going to end up being a really good football game that will test the mettle of both of these schools. Your question was, whoever loses this, what does it do to their season? I hope that it's the type of game that win or lose, it neither boosts your, oh, look, they beat Ohio State. Now they're the number 1 running through. Or they lost to Ohio State, call it off, and let's just all get ready for Christmas. I think that this is going to be that type of game. A touchdown, a field goal separates these two teams. And to the victor go the spoils, but certainly not a defeated season to the loser.
What if, and I know this is just what ifs, and we're playing with a lot of, what ifs. We don't know what's going to happen, of course. Well, actually, you know the future, so you do know the outcome of this game. You're just probably not willing to share it just yet. But, and we'll talk about that come the end of August when we talk about this game again, when it's going to be played within a few days. So, but my question is, if it's a blowout, if Texas loses by 3 touchdowns, Arch falls apart in this game, how does that set up the season? And you could do that vice versa. I mean, how does a blowout of a team like we just talked about, a Florida State got blown out by Georgia Tech, how does that affect how do you think that'll affect their season moving forward?
I don't wish this on him. In fact, I sincerely pray for Arch about what I'm getting ready to talk about. In talking about the depth for Texas in both the last show and in this show, I highlighted something very important to their overall offense, but also very intimately to Arch, and that is the offensive line. 4 out of their 5 starters are gone. We talked about the talent that's going to be stepping up into those roles, and it is certainly there. But you are going to have an offensive line going into a game against Ohio State that does not have the same chemistry that the offensive line of Texas had last year. You're not opening up against San Jose State where, oh my gosh, I missed that block. Remember that one slow guy that got past me? No. If you miss a block against Ohio State, your quarterback is under immediate pressure. Immediate pressure. Now, Arch has the legs, has the cat-like reflexes to kind of get out of some of those jams. He's proven that. He can scramble. Maybe he only picks up 3 yards, but at least he gets out of a bad situation. If that is the tone of the day, of looking at the struggles of a newly formed, talented, but newly formed Texas offensive line, what happens if Arch goes down? I'm not worried about Arch getting rattled, making poor decisions, throwing a lot of picks, and having a bad day. I'm worried about protecting that guy.
Well, I never even think about that, man. With the new offensive line, man. Yes, he's a scrambler, but I'm gonna tell you right now, scrambling quarterbacks, although great, and we've seen some great scrambling quarterbacks over the time, over the days, years. Excuse me. Stetson Bennett was a great scrambling quarterback. That's how he beat people, was his ability to scramble. Johnny Manziel, a scrambling type quarterback, and that's how he beat people. But those guys were smaller stature than an Arch Manning. So can Arch scramble well enough without getting hurt? That is a huge risk on his part. And with that new O-line, my advice to an Arch Manning is don't scramble as much. Don't think that you've got it with your legs. These boys are big. I saw your face when Georgia's defensive guys were chasing you down in the backfield, and you were like, I can't believe I can't outrun this 320-pound guy. So these boys are fast. They're big. They're strong. My advice to you is get rid of the ball quickly. Be a Tom Brady. Sit in the pocket. Look for your throw. If you don't have it, get rid of it. That's how you're going to stay healthy, because an Arch Manning going down could cripple a Texas season. Not on the standpoint because they don't have the talent to back him up, but as a maybe more of a psychological, that's a big word for me, on a standpoint. It could really play with the entire team's psyche if Arch goes down, and could be down for a while.
If I'm Ohio State going into that game, I'm stacking the box. And I'm going to do that for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm going to have an attitude of, okay, Arch, beat me.
Yeah.
I know you did it against some lesser schools for a few starts last year when Quinn was out, but now you're playing me. Now you're playing the Buckeyes defense. Here's everything we got. We're coming at you as fast as we know how to, as strong as we know how to. Beat me, right? So I've got that approach. But then the second is, if I'm Texas, I know I got to run the ball. I can't just let Arch be my guy all day long. So if I'm stacking the box as Ohio State, I'm also prepared to stop that run and put it all on Arch Manning's shoulders. Put it all on that offensive line's back to see, can they protect that guy? And that's where that's where this game is. I love a game that lives and dies in the trenches, and I think that's what this game is.
Yeah, and look, we're going to move on to a few more of the other games that especially the conference games, and didn't want to spend too much time on a non-conference game. However, this is a huge game and could be a very defining moment, not only for Texas and that's who we're talking about. So, but also for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, this game is big. This game has consequences. Potentially. I mean, if it's like you said, if it's a 3-point game, either way, how does that affect their season moving forward? It doesn't. If it's a blowout, or God forbid, and we're praying against it, that an Arch or somebody goes down, like even a Julian Salant, their quarterback at Ohio State, if their starting quarterback goes down, somebody that's supposed to hold this mantle up, for the team, that could have serious consequences for their season. So it should be fun to watch. Now, they open up with, after that, they play 3 other non-conference teams that's not even worth mentioning. Their first conference game is up against another quarterback that people are saying that's Heisman favorite, has an opportunity to do well, which is in Florida. And they are playing at the Swamp. Ask Lane Kiffin how hard it is to play in the Swamp. He had Jackson Dart last year that threw for about, I think, 9,578 yards, and I think it was about 78 touchdowns last year. Go into the Swamp and did not play well. So good luck. That's going to be a tough game.
That is going to be a tough game. And here's the upside if you're a Gator fan. It's in October. So you will have figured some things out by the time you face Texas. You're at home. I'm assuming the DJ Lagway is going to be off to a good start this year in Florida. So you're going to have a top-tier matchup between Manning and Lagway. I still feel like Texas is going to be too strong for Florida. I know Florida started coming on toward the end of the year, and Billy Napier is building something down there. And I'm not talking about his haircut shop. He's getting something going down there with Florida. They're coming around to his way of thinking, but that's going to be a good matchup.
I think the worst scenario going into that game is this. Texas beats Ohio State and is now sitting at 4-0 going into that game. I think that's the worst case scenario for Florida is let them lose to Ohio State. Now they're playing with a chip on their shoulder the rest of the season. That's what I think. And B, you could jump in anytime if you want to say something as we're going through these.
I don't have anything to add. Y'all are killing it.
Okay. The next game, what did he say? He say he didn't have anything?
He did not. No, he took the nod to us, and by us, I think he meant me. But we're killing it.
Thank you. There's no dog without the chicken, and there's no chicken without the dog. Every good chicken needs a dog. All right. So the next game is one of my favorites of the year, the Red River Rivalry. That's right. I said that right. I took my time. And they got trounced Texas trounced them last year. Venables, I hate to say it, it's probably going to be the same again this year. I don't see Oklahoma competing in that game. But that is always one of those goofy games that happen. So who knows?
I will push back. I think that this one is going to come down to it. I think, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because we'll talk about Oklahoma later on. I think that this is going to be one of those games that Oklahoma just shows up and plays out of their minds.
Ooh.
This particular season. I'm not going to tip as to who's going to win, who's going to lose. But I think that this is going to be one of those rivalry games that goes down in now SEC history as, do you remember when the Longhorns played the Sooners in 25? Oh my gosh. What a game.
Could this be an Uncle Kenny's buzzsaw pick for the week?
I wouldn't be surprised. Now,
I wouldn't either.
I was not heard from Uncle Kenny in a while. This is usually that time of year where he laments the fact that there isn't any college football being played. He doesn't get into this whole USFL thing. So he spends a lot of time walking, studying migratory habits of various birds, reading Ernest Hemingway novels, and drinking a lot.
I was going to ask you, how do you think his liver's doing right now?
He's on his third, so so far so good.
It's saturated.
That's right.
We
got in a standing order for number 4, so we're good.
The next game is Kentucky at Kentucky. Good thing for Kentucky is Vander Griffgroff is not under center this year, so we have no idea what Kentucky is going to look like this year. Of course, I'm going to give my nod to Texas on that one for sure.
Absolutely. And the other good thing for Kentucky is that no one expects you to win. So,
yeah, that's for sure.
If you could go into that game and leave healthy, that's a plus. Anything after that is icing.
Yes. Next game after that, you got to go to Mississippi State and play there in Starkville.
Starkville.
That's right.
Not your toughest road trip ever.
No.
Oh, they're on the road for 2 weeks against Kentucky and Mississippi State. Okay. And?
Yeah. Might as well just stay somewhere down there and don't even come home.
Right?
Yeah. Mississippi State, unfortunately, and we'll try to get to them as far as a forecast show, but they have just, not only did they have a terrible 2024 season, but they got dismantled too in the portal, and we've talked about that some. The loss of their in my opinion, their only bright spot that they had last season, which was Van Buren, left. So Mississippi State guy, I don't. That should be a cakewalk. Sark, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. And then you invite the Anchor Downs, the Fighting Pavillas, to Austin in November. I mean, I think you should be able to handle that. Vanderbilt, I don't think they're going to be that good. Pavia, who knows what kind of season he's going to have? We just don't know.
I think that in November, Texas thrashes Vanderbilt. I think one of the special things about Vanderbilt's year last year was the way that Ernie played. You can't say that he was really catching people by surprise at the end of the year. He certainly had some highlight moments that caught us all by surprise, beating Alabama, things of that nature. But when you're going to play this Texas team, all things being healthy, I think Texas is going to beat Vanderbilt senseless.
Well, then on November the 15th, they have a bye week between the Vandy and this next team, and they're going to need it because they have to come to what I refer as the motherland of Athens, Georgia, and take on the Bulldogs. Athens is a hard environment. Kirby does not lose in Athens that often, but this game is Texas is going to want their revenge in this game. Georgia beat them twice last year. It didn't stop them from making the playoffs. It didn't stop them from advancing in the playoffs, pretty far into it. But Georgia beat them twice. This game has probably a lot of, I would assume, playoff / SEC championship implications. It's going to be a very big game for that week.
Yeah, I think this particular week, and you put it well, that it could have both conference and national championship playoff implications. You're looking at, in all likelihood, a number 1, number 2 matchup in the conference this particular week. If Ohio State comes out on top against Texas in the first game of the year, this game could not only be a number 1, number 2 matchup in the conference, it could be the type of game where Georgia could push Texas out with a victory of playoff standings, period.
What if Georgia and Texas are undefeated going into this game? Then you could potentially have number 1 and number 2 in the country.
Yep.
Potentially. You'd have delivered Ohio State a loss at week 1. Texas would have. So, are you going to put an undefeated? You're going to put them over an undefeated Georgia? Probably not. So this game could play out to be a huge game for that week, no doubt.
Could be our first loss at home since who?
I don't know the answer.
The Fighting South Carolina Gamecocks 2019.
Wow.
I haven't lost at home since then.
Wow. What a record to hold on that Kirby has, right? I mean, that's in itself is very impressive.
Yep.
DK Joyner was under center that day for us. It was wonderful.
Here we go.
Saturday afternoon.
Jeez.
Hey man, it could have been Tech. Could have been Tech last year.
Wait a minute. There was something else that happened that day too, wasn't there? Something was brought into this world that was pretty great.
Yeah. Izzy McQuamu intercepted Jake Fromm, ran it all the way back. Oh, yeah, sorry. I digress. My daughter was born at that moment.
Yes, and I have to hear about that all the time. Although his daughter wears Clemson stuff. She's confused.
She can't stand the Tigers, and my wife hates it. I love it because although what you see here on this show will probably contradict what I'm about to tell you, I'm not that guy that shoves my team in my kids' faces. I'm like, look, you like who you want to like. My wife is full of Clemson propaganda, but I don't go that way. And my kids, my son, and who's now 21, and my 5-year-old daughter are both avid Gamecock fans. Why? Because they have seen the truth.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think your oldest is a Georgia fan, so she may be the most intelligent one of the group.
I love my child.
Marley, if you're listening, we love you. Or at least I do.
I love you too, sweetheart.
The next game that Texas has to play on, and I'm going to tell you this. Whether they beat Georgia or lose to Georgia, this next game, in my opinion, is huge to them. And they have to take on the Fighting Pittmans in Arkansas. They don't go to Arkansas. They actually have to play them in Austin, so that's probably a good thing for Texas. But Sam Pittman's going to do okay next year, I believe, or this coming season. And I think that could be, especially if they beat Georgia, that Arkansas game could be a trap game for Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. If they come out on top against Georgia, it could be a trap game. I love the Fighting Pittmans. So I don't want this to go the wrong way. But when I look at Texas's schedule from the expert perch that I maintain, this game does not jump off the page as for one of their bigger matchups. I see 4, maybe 5 big matchups for Texas this year on this schedule. We've already talked about Ohio State. I think Florida is that one that's kind of on the fence for me of, is this going to be a big game or not? I think Oklahoma is going to be a big game. If nothing else, it is your rival. Georgia, obviously a big game. And the next one that we'll talk about with Texas A&M, another rival. Arkansas, I think, is going to be a good game. I don't want to take anything away from them, but it doesn't really grab my attention the way that these others do.
I think, and you may be right.
I am.
I knew that was coming, but I think that's going to depend on, like you said, whether or not they win or lose in Georgia. I mean, in Athens, but also keep in mind one of the quarterbacks that you and I have talked about that's going to be, in our opinion, kind of that sleeper quarterback in the SEC is that kid from Arkansas, Green. He's going to be good, and so Green just I think it's going to depend on what his season looks like, whether or not that game could be a ball game or not, for sure.
I agree, and I think that they'll have a great year, but I don't see this as being one of the ones that they take, unless it becomes that trap type game where Texas just kind of comes in flatter than they should after a huge win in Athens.
Sure. And then the last game, like you mentioned, of the regular season is Texas A&M in Austin. You beat them last year in College Station. I don't know. I really can't predict this game. I think it's going to be a big game. I think there's a lot of factors in this game. Who is Texas? If I had to just purely guess right now, I would say Texas is going to own this game probably pretty well. I think the talent level and the coaching level at Texas right now is superior than you see that in A&M. I think the Aggies are on their way. I think they've got a good coach. They've got to stick with this guy for a little bit, let him build his program. But this is his second year. You know, Hugh Freeze came to Auburn right out the rip and did pretty well his first season. Last year, he had that second-year slump. Could the guy and I'm drawing a blank, Elko. In A&M, could he have that second-year slump? Potentially. We'll see. But I would give the edge to Texas in this game.
Even if he doesn't have a slump per se, Texas A&M needs a culture change. What I mean by that is they've got to find a way to begin to consistently win the big games. I don't care if it was Kevin Sumlin. I don't care if it was Jimbo Fisher. You've had some talented coaches in there. You've obviously had some talented players come in there. Texas A&M has gone into a season just on a tear, making everyone pay attention. Is this going to be the year? And then they start getting flat tires. The fact that A&M has to play Texas as the last regular season game, as it should be. Welcome back, rivalry game.
Yes.
But the fact that that game is the last game of the season, too many opportunities have already happened for A&M to fall flat on their face. Too many opportunities have happened for Texas to rise to the occasion, as they typically do, unless they're playing Georgia. I think that this is just another one of those instances where the Longhorns come in and skewer the Aggies.
So you talk about a culture change. Or were you saying that they need to stop doing the yelling?
I would start there.
Yeah, probably that might be a good start. You're sure? Maybe they need it.
Bring some color into the student section. There's way too much khaki going on. I don't know if I'm watching a desert documentary or if I'm watching something about Texas A&M. Like, just let's get some life going here.
Should they skip to the 14th man instead of the 12th?
You need to focus on the 11 that are on the field.
Yeah, that's for sure. Look, I think Texas has got Ohio State, good pick. So when we talked about last season, you know, whether or not their schedule was tough or not, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I don't think it was as hard as especially conference schedule. But kudos to Texas, kudos to Stark for scheduling an Ohio State week 1. I think that's great. I think, you know, it's good in a lot of ways. It's bad in some ways. But yeah, you've got a season ahead of you. I think this year I think Florida's going to be better this year than they were last year. You do have to play Texas. Other than that, I mean, you're probably going to run. I mean, you got to play Georgia. Yeah, I think Texas is going to probably do okay this year, all in all.
Yeah, I think that at the end of it all, they'll be in the talk for the college football playoffs. They will be in the talk for SEC championship. They'll be in that race as well. I think, again, pivotal. Can they keep Arch healthy early? Because by the time you get into the latter part of your schedule here, that offensive line will have had a chance to gel, to come together, to figure all the intricacies out of playing alongside each other in what's arguably one of the most important positions. It ain't sexy. Nobody goes to a football game to watch the left guard block. But what you came to see, which is Arch throwing a beautiful spiral 35 yards downfield, doesn't happen unless that offensive line is playing tight. By the time you get to the section of the schedule where you're facing Oklahoma, you're facing Georgia, you're facing A&M, that O-line should be in tune.
You know, when you were talking about sexy, I thought maybe you were going to bring up Matthew McConaughey.
All right.